everything's ready here. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome into the Eric Zane Show podcast. What am I doing? Thank you so much for being here in the Impact Power Sports studio. I got my Impact Power Sports gear on today. Everything looks a little slanted, though. Are you seeing that in the video? Does it look like the old 1960s Batman? I have some explaining to do. Yeah, I definitely can't handle the angle. That thing is screwed up. I don't know. I don't even know if that's going to help. Top-notch operation here on the Eric Zane Show podcast. Yesterday I sat down here. I was getting ready to do this show, and then all of a sudden there's a little icon that tells you that you're hooked up, the internet. And it switched to the other icon, which means you are not hooked up to the internet. And so I'm like, okay, well, what's going on? I checked you can go online and check outages, and it gives you the green check mark. You're all good. Everything's awesome. I go, well, it's not. So I go downstairs, and it's just remarkable to me that this is the razor's edge that I'm walking on to do this show. I go downstairs, and I unplug the modem, which connects to a hard wire system. I actually have a hard line going from that modem to here. All right? I don't have to rely on, like, Wi-Fi. It's hardwired right into the damn thing. I run the wire all the way through the house. But something's amiss, so your old pal Easy is trying to troubleshoot. I shut that all down. Then and my computer is all shut down. Any engineer will tell you, all right, you got to restart it. Now, I don't know if that was taught at engineering school or if that's just what people have figured out over the years. Now, ultimately, that is what did it. But at that time, I shut it all down. I spoke to you all, and that, hey, it's good. I went on my phone and did a little video. Said, hey, I'm good. I don't know what's going on. It's all wacky. And then everybody immediately is trying to help. I've got, it's flying at me. I'm hearing, do hotspot. Call Blue Frost IT. Call this. And I'm like, okay, that's all good. But I gotta stick with I gotta try what has been effective in the past. Shut it all down. Restart it all. Nothing. I go, okay, well, I'm kind of under the gun today. So I got to get the show started. So I went ahead and did the show with no audience, which I used to do that quite a bit, actually. But I haven't done it in some time. There was one moment in particular when I needed to get a phone number for WLAV to call into those dickheads, because I say that affectionately because I like those people. Call into their show because I got a message that they had mentioned me and called me a rat bastard or something like that. So on yesterday's show, you'll hear me calling into WLAV. It was fun. But I actually felt very, very comfortable doing that show alone. I was like, I love doing it when there is that interaction, but just the one time it felt good to okay, let's just sit down and talk and do our thing. It actually moved better than I thought it would. I didn't feel as jacked as I thought I was going to be without having anyone here. Tyler says, I was white knuckling it because I couldn't type out any jokes when I was listening. Yeah, that's what you're used to now. Tyler is a head joke writer in a volunteer sense on the Eric Zane Show podcast. Who actually is a pretty good joke writer if you can get by all of the extra baggage, which hasn't manifested in quite some time, so that's good, is Kenny. Actually writes good jokes from time to time. I give him at least a C plus, B minus on the jokes. Linda says it was funny when you asked us to look up the WLAV number. That gives you an idea of where my brain is, how focused, how used to it I am interacting with you. The chat is my call-in line. Okay? Tyler refers to Kenny as quite a jokester. Aram says EZ always has an Apollo 13 workaround. You have to. You have to have the workaround. So then, what's funny is I told you about how I restarted everything and nothing worked. It was ruined. All right, well, I'm doing a show. Get that show done. And then I did the whole damn thing again. I shut the computer down. I shut the modem down, unplugged it all. 5 minutes, plugged it all back in, works fine. That's mysterious. What is going on there? I mean, what a finicky contraption we have. That is very alarming to me. There's got to be a different type of backup. I don't think that I'm comfortable. I'm going to have to talk to the engineering staff of the Eric Zane Show podcast about a more comfortable backup setup. And I actually am going to need that more extensive backup arrangement because of, as I started talking about Monday, rather quickly, there has been a change in the landscape at Eric Zane Productions, LLC, which actually is a company. One employee, S Corp, EZ, that's it. Eric Zane Productions, LLC, not LLZ, was approached recently about taking a gig, a radio gig. Offer on the table. I accepted it. That's all I can really tell you, other than the idea that this show is going to start later. The idea was floated about this morning arrangement. All right. And I said, yeah, I want to do it live. We'll do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live. So that is happening. Probably March. I'm guessing mid to late March, right around there. Mike says voice tracking or live. Definitely live. A 100% live morning show. And there are ways that you can all get involved. I will not keep it a secret as to how you are to listen. So you will start every day listening to EZ doing a actual morning show on the radio. It has been more than 5 years. I am taking a job. Someone made me a bet and said, do you think you can try to take Michael Gray's job again? So that is what I've done. This is the big announcement. I called Montana Radio Company or whatever the hell they are, and I said, you got a guy on there who's retarded. You're going to need to replace him with EZ. And they said, okay. And they fired Michael Gray for the third time. I am taking over Michael Gray's job. That is all a lie. Zero of that is true. But you have to wonder if anybody reached out to him and said, hey, EZ's talking about getting back in the game. Are you okay? I have more than one person who is a dear friend of mine. I have Jeff Risden, great pal, and also Nick down in Houston, Texas. And I think it's Nick. I think Nick knows Michael Gray. I'm pretty sure he does. And they all heap praise on Michael Gray. I do not. I do not like Michael. I didn't like Michael Gray when I was competing against him. I didn't like Michael Gray when I met him at the Super Bowl and we supposedly buried the hatchet. I wasn't buying it then. Okay? Now, this guy doesn't like me because every time I need a job, I go get his job. I needed a job in Grand Rapids, and I took his job. After I lost that job, I needed a job in Grand Rapids. The first place I went was wherever Michael Gray was on the air. And I knew that if I followed the breadcrumbs of Michael Gray to a radio station, in his wake, there would be no audience. And coworkers who don't like him. And that was the case when I moved into his job at Cumulus. I've done nothing to that asshole other than be good at radio and take his job. That's the only thing I've ever done to that prick. So when it didn't work out and I got fired at BBL, okay, he wrote, "Karma, you soft, fat fucking goon. Karma, that's karma. You got fired, karma." What a twat. Well, anyway, my new gig has nothing to do with him. But to get ready for mornings, this has been a long time since I've had to deal with the sheer hour of waking. You're waking in the middle of the night. And being that I have time until this gig starts, I'm like, okay, let's approach this pragmatically. You don't want to upset the apple cart. Big picture is this podcast, other than the time change, cannot suffer in any way, period. You cannot be exhausted from doing a morning show and then, that whole deal. Because I'm sure that that's come up in people's brains. How is he going to do this? So starting Monday, I got up 10 minutes earlier, 6:10 instead of 6:20 to do this show. So it gave me a little bit more time in preparations for that day's show. Making Pooh Bear's lunch, feeding the dogs, letting the dogs outside, preparing to do the show. Tuesday, 6 a.m. Today, 5:50. And I got to work this backwards. And it's going to be weird because yesterday, even though it was only like 20 minutes earlier, I could still sense that there was like a change there was like a disturbance in the force. Like there was something off. Just because I got up 20 minutes earlier as the day got on, I was like, it's really weird when you become an old bastard like this. You can't have really abrupt changes. Like if I decided, okay, hey, I'm on mornings, I'm going to get up. I'm not going to I had no plan on like getting myself ready by getting up a little bit earlier every day. And I just decided to go after it. And then day one went from getting up at 7 to getting up at 4. Oh, it'd be so bad. I would sign on to the radio and probably like the first word out of my mouth would be the N-word or something ridiculous or just I would not be sharp. And then I would cause the station to lose its license. Everybody would be fired and out of work by the time I actually got done with the show. And then I would have to do the podcast. I would mess that up. They pull every bit of fiber optics out of my house so that I can't podcast anymore. It'd be awful. So this is how we got to do this. Donut Dan says, next will you have that girl from the Up North TV station trying to take your job with the drive? Yeah, I'm a little lost in that one, Dan. Can you mix in some punctuation or grammar on that question? Reread that and see if it makes sense to you, because it doesn't make sense to me. I don't know what's going on there. Do you mean, and you mean the Gold, of course, the Grand Rapids Gold. I know who you're talking about. You're talking about Ruby Aurora. My God, that was baffling to me, the whole Ruby Aurora saga. Yeah, I know. I know who he's referring to, but I'm trying to figure out, next, will you have that girl from the Up North TV station trying to take your job with the Gold? Wait a minute. I still don't know what you're getting at there. I mean, I'm talking about being tired, and you're talking about her taking my job. Is that kind of what you were saying, suggesting? Kind of, maybe I could have figured that one out with context. Either way, yeah, Ruby Aurora is a damn legend. The legend of Ruby Aurora is born. Okay. Today is another day heading over to iHeartRadio to sit in with Bill Simonson on The Huge Show. This is always great fun. Bill, he is an absolute psychopath, and he doesn't know where I'm going to go when we start having conversations, because he's an absolute troublemaker. He's a complete shit stirrer. And I'll tell him that. I was like, you are a sicko. This is on the air. You are a sick, sick fool. Because the things he says to me trying to get under my skin, which is not possible. Nobody has the ability to get under my skin. No one's skin is thicker. You don't sit here for 5 years yelling into a camera, screaming at clouds, interacting with dogs, and everybody telling you how much you suck without getting some thick skin. But while I was walking through the radio station, I noticed, because what they have there is room after room of studios, and they're all empty. And there's fantastic equipment in every single one of them. I mean, they spare no expense, and amazingly enough, there's no one at the radio station. Like, there's no bodies. And I see in one of these auxiliary production studios an old school reel-to-reel player. Now, these pieces of equipment haven't even been in radio stations for decades. And they have one there, and I reached out to the engineers, a guy named Rich Bass. He's really a great dude. I go, dude, what's up with the reel-to-reel? He goes, yeah, I just got that working, because he's an old guy like me. And I'm like, he goes, you have any old reel-to-reels? Because that piece of equipment is not going to be there forever. You might want to, if you have any material on reel, get it on there and dub it. And I go, I'm on it. And I have 2 or 3 of these reels, old school tape, where back in the day, if you wanted to make an edit, like remove a word or move something around, you had to make a mark on the tape with a white crayon and then physically roll the tape with your hands to where the word ends, make another white mark, pull the tape down onto what's called an editing block, take a razor blade, cut the white mark, the first white mark, and then the other one, and then you take it out, you physically drop it on the floor, the tape flutters to the ground, and you have a little piece of adhesive tape that you then connect. It's a splice. Oh, I was a surgeon with that shit. I have the tapes. I don't know what's on them. Why am I telling you this? It's because this is going to make an appearance on not the Lost Zane recordings. Well, for sure, who are these Zanes? These are like 60-second commercials and comedy bits that Joe and I used to make that are just shit. And you know how it is with me. Listening back to them is well, it makes me cringe so damn bad I can't even handle it. But Ben is going to have a field day reviewing this stuff. And I'm also going to take the entire reel and post it on Patreon, along with the Who Are These Zanes show. So we have a whole new batch of stuff to get after when we review it. And then yesterday, Billy says to me, on the air, he goes, so what is this? Who are these free beers? No, actually, before that even, he says to me, EZ, and I'm like, are you kidding me? He says, you should do a show where you take old clips of free beer and hot wings, or take clips of free beer and hot wings and review it on your show. And I go, are you kidding me? He goes, no. I go, well, I'm not saying are you kidding me because that's like a good idea or a bad idea, or I can't believe you'd come up with something like that. I'm saying that because I do. We have 13 episodes of Who Are These Free Beers where we listen to the show, we pull clips, and then we goof on it. And he thought, and I go, we also do Who Are These Zanes? And I explained to him that concept. I go, do you have old tapes? He goes, yes. I go, well, I need those. We need to do Who Are These Simonsons? Who are these Hughes? Who are these Bills? And he's all about it. Now, he might sound just as retarded on those as he does now. So it might just be, well, Bill, we decided that all they got to do is listen to like today's show and it's going to be the same. I don't know. But I definitely, if by chance, anyone listening, like Nick in Houston, he's a broadcaster. If you have old air checks, get me that shit. We can review you and rip you a new asshole, or anyone at all. I mean, nobody listens to my show. If anybody is listening who happens to have had any type of broadcast experience, you have to get that to me. I love the concept of expanding the whole review segments. All right. So as you can tell, I'm kind of like on cloud nine right now. I'm very, very energized, and I feel very, very good about the future, because in my mind, this is what I had wanted to do now. When I got fired from Cumulus 5 years ago, I did not have the intention or the plan to do a podcast or anything like that. I had no idea. I had 2 weeks of pay, and that's it. And I didn't know what I was going to do. I considered selling motorhomes or cars. The BBL thing, no one really listened to it. I was frustrated, upset. And then 2 days after I got fired, I did the one podcast, and that bought me some time because Patreon went through the roof. And I thought, well, I can always put stuff up on Patreon. But the way Patreon works is you have a huge influx of people, and then it levels off. A lot of those people drop off. So, but what it did was it bought me about 2 months worth of time, because it was a pretty good chunk of change that came in right away from that within a couple of days. Everybody wanted to help. And they still do. I mean, my God, Patreon is still a unbelievable revenue source and very, very fun. But I didn't have a plan of doing a podcast every single day. It wasn't until about a week that I went, well, if I could just do this every day, maybe I can. And I was like, well, I don't know how to do a podcast every day. I don't think I've got the horsepower to do that. And those first ones were 15 minutes, 20 minutes, zero sponsors. But I had about a month or two, like I said, to get some sponsors in place. Big Dick Donnie Veltman with Back Alley Comedy Club was first. And then Rick from TC Paintball, second. Henry Steffes was right in there. So in short order, I had 3 or 4 sponsors that bought me more time. And I go, all right, I'm just going to do this fucking podcast. And that was it. If you worked out the math out of how many broadcast days, in 5 years, there have only been about 10 days that I haven't done a podcast. That's how all in this was. Along the way, figuring out tricks and other ways to, figure this out and make a little money here and do this and bring this person in and buy this piece of equipment. Basically, as long as I had the microphone and a way to record and a camera, I was in business. So, boom, away we go. Ultimately, though, as time passed, I was like, boy, I would love the opportunity to be able to do the podcast and do a radio show. In fact, as it goes, after I left Freeburg and Hot Wings, I was ready to start a podcast then. And I said, after I did those 30 YouTube shows, I was like, hey, I want to keep this going. Cumulus said, nope, we don't want you doing a podcast. Now, everything's changed in the landscape of radio. The two entities have merged, online broadcast and radio. They work hand in hand and feed off of each other now. So nowadays, the idea of me doing a podcast and a radio show, it's a no-brainer. So I have been saying on this show right here, I would love the opportunity to be able to do a radio show and have it be part of what I do during a regular day to complement what I've already built with the podcast. And, well, that day has come. I have, I'm literally waiting on paperwork. And it's going to be awesome. I am absolutely stoked about this. So Tyler writes, how much money do you make with the Griffins? Which is probably something Bill would say. Yes. Dan says, congrats. It's great to see you excited about this new opportunity. Yeah, absolutely. But, I'd like to say that I'm excited every day just talking, being here, part of it. And that's what makes this really, really fun, because I'm doing the gig, the radio gig, not because I have to or because I need to, but I'd really like to do it. I was approached, and I was the last person to think that this was a possibility. In fact, and you'll hear the whole story as time passes, I was in the process last week of hunting down people to take the job that I'm going to take. Like, I was calling on behalf of these people, friend to friend. Like, one friend reached out to me and said, hey, do you know anybody? I don't know. Let me poke around. And then I made a phone call, and so I'm reaching out to people. And lo and behold, that all changed. And I'll save that for when I actually tell that story, because I was like, what? You what? Me? So I'm stoked. That's all I can say about this. That is all I can say about this. So my day will be get up early again, get ready to do a show, do the show, reset, let the dogs out, and get after the podcast. It should start at 10. Tyler writes, Eric sat down with these big shots and said, look, let's get one thing straight. I don't need you. You need me. Capiche? Now, I didn't say that, but it's true. It is absolutely true. At the end of the day, that's accurate. But I'm not the one to say that, Tyler, you dickhead. I like these people very much. I would never, ever pull that type of trick. But it sounds funny to say, but it's true. Okay. Tomorrow is a Big Fraud Thursday. I'm stoked about that. Ben and I will be doing Who Are These Free Beers, but I think we're not going to start till about 6:35. I don't know if Ben knows that yet, because I'll be coming back from iHeart, filling in with Bill. And then that should run till about 7:20. We'll start the Ben and Eric Patreon podcast after that. Those things are both on Patreon, patreon.com/Eric Zane. I do have my dad today for another edition of Who Are These Meatheads? Who are these meatheads? What the fuck? Dear Meathead. Ben's theory, Eric working from home so he's not in the same building as Free Beer and Hot Wings. Oh, can you imagine that? If that were the case, and it's not, if they said, hey, we want you to come back, I would say, look, I hate all of you. Well, I shouldn't say that. Greg, you have to let me punch you in the stomach as hard as I can, first of all. And if you allow that to happen, then and only then will I work for you, but I will not be in the same room with you. Absolutely true. Amanda writes, who are these meatheads? Just made me laugh out loud. Yeah, we could go back and review old clips of my dad. If you have a question for Dad on Dear Meathead, send it along, Eric at ericzaneshow.com. I blue-balled you yesterday on a hockey story, and I heard from, I think it was Cole, who said, you blue-balled us on that story because I started to tell it, and then I interrupted myself and called WLAV. I have learned that goalie prospects like it when the other team gets lots of shots, provided they make the saves. Sebastian Cossa was a 15th overall pick a couple of years ago for the Red Wings, first rounder. They've got big plans for him. He has all the tools to be a fantastic goaltender, and he's getting there. He's only 21. Now, the thing about Sebastian Cossa that will stand out to you, in addition to him being extremely big, he's 6'7", off skates. So with the mask on and the skates looking down at you, it's a 7-foot giant. So that makes him looking down on me at 5'7" or whatever I am. I mean, he's a foot and a half taller looking down. And I've never spoken to him, ever. So I have no idea of his sensibility, but I'm learning, and I found out from Dog that he's extremely pleasant and a little fun. Silly, I guess. I mean, he's fucking essentially still a kid, like Joe Gassman when he was getting bullied by the radio show. I come walking off of the ice in between periods after the first period. And he's done this before where he sees me, and because I sit at the scorer's table next to the scorekeeper and the person who controls the big scoreboard above the ice, all right, he thinks that I have control over how many shots on goal by the other team. But I'm just the PA announcer. But he sees me, and the rest of the team is in the locker room, and he's taking off his pads and putting them on the glove dryer. And he says, hey, they got a few more shots in than what's on the board, hey? I go, huh? Yeah, they got a lot more shots, and that's very important to these guys because it affects their save percentage, which is key to them in their progression up to the NHL. He wants to play for the Red Wings. I go, oh, okay. So I didn't really know what he meant. And then someone leans into me and says, he wants you to make sure that that number goes up, that Milwaukee has more shots on goal. And I go, oh, well, I can't do that. That's not really my gig. All right. Next game, same thing. Hey, there was a power play to end that period, eh? I go, oh, yeah. He goes, they had 3 on the power play. They had 3 shots on the power play. They didn't go on the board, eh? And I go, oh, well, I'll take care of it, Sebastian. He goes, okay, thanks. And he takes his fist and he gives me this gigantic fucking ham hock. He goes, thanks. And he fist bumps me. I go, yeah, all right, buddy. Go to the bathroom. I walk out onto the ice. And I walk over to the Daktronic score thing. And it says shots. And beep, beep, beep. They had 7 shots, the opposition. Now they have 10. Intermission ends. I'm introducing them back onto the ice. Fans, let's welcome back for a second period action, your Grand Rapids Griffins. And he skates. He's always the first one out. Grabs a water bottle, goes over, puts it on top of the net, turns around, flips up his mask to put water on his face because they're always like the motor's running hot, I guess. And he looks up and he sees that number's changed from 7 to 10. And he like drops a water bottle. He looks across the ice to the scorer's table and he goes, yeah, like he pumps his fucking fist. And I'm like, yeah, I got you, bitch. I got you. And so that was fantastic. Period ends. I go back across the ice to go tinkle again. Same thing. Taking off his gear. He sees me, goes, hey, you did it. Thanks again, eh? And he gives me another fist bump. He's like my fucking buddy now. I go, yeah, it's a bastard. This big, giant ginger, red hair, and just a big, he looks unbelievably big. And then with all that gear on, he fits up like the whole spot in the net. He's the biggest goalie you will ever see. Jesus. Aram says it seems kind of ridiculous that someone that big guards that little goal. Well, it helps, for sure. You would think that he'd never, ever give up a goal. Maybe one day. He's improving all the time. But I think I had something to do with that. So now I expect every time him to say that to me, and I'm going to do my best to fulfill his dream of getting to the NHL by bumping up the shots by the other team. Because his bosses, there's a few guys. There's Sean Horkoff. What's his name? What's that fucking guy's name? Dan Cleary, Chris Draper, Steve Yzerman, Kirk Maltby. They all sit way up top of the arena and watch the game. And they're looking for very specific things to determine how the player is improving. And it's like science to these guys. So if they're seeing that there's more shots on their guy and he's making more saves, it's very, very important, I guess. So I'd like to now. Typically, I don't fraternize with the players after the what was that dickhead coach's name? After the Ben Simon incident, I don't. I haven't spoken to any players since then. I keep my distance. I don't want anything to do with any players. I don't want to make friends with any players. Because it just gets weird, and I'll end up fucking something up, and I'll end up losing more friends. I'll get suspended again. So that's like my new policy. But this seems ridiculously fun. It's very flun. What is my problem today? I'm so excited I can't even talk. Okay, your old pal EZ has to go tinkle. I had an extra cup of coffee today. You can't tell. I'll be back. All right. Okay. So, anyway, folks that are watching on the show on Facebook, X, and YouTube, well, time to send you on your way. But I want you to get the rest of the show. There's still plenty more that I'll be talking about here. In order to get that, you have to go to Twitch. And just download the Twitch app on your mobile device, and you'll find me when you search Eric Zane Live, all one word. Also, twitch.tv/Eric Zane Live. That's me, your old pal EZ. You can also send me an email whenever you want on the Shoreliner Striping inbox, eric@ericzaneshow.com. And also, please consider my Patreon. Please consider signing up for 7 days free to check out all of the shows that are there. There's a lot of content every week that goes up, a lot more on Patreon than there is on the free platform. And some of it is my best stuff with Ben Glaze, of course, and the Who Are These Free Beers, Who Are These Zanes shows, all there on Patreon. And you can explore for 7 days free at patreon.com/Eric Zane. Okay, thanks for checking me out.